I use a mix of traditional winemaking with innovation as well. There's a lot of risk taking in this winery, and sometimes things work out, sometimes they don't, but then when they don't, there's like always something to learn from it, or there's a corner that's turned. I'm Owen Latta from Eastern Peake and Latta Vino. I'm the winemaker, operator, viticulturalist, all-rounder, I guess you'd say, because it's a small family business, so you've got to know everything when you're on the land or in the shed trying to make the wines. Eastern Peake, my parents started in 1983, were contract grape growers for Trevor Mast of Mount Lang in Duran. He was trying to find the best Pinot Noir in Australia, like for someone to grow for him, to make sparkling and red wine as well. We sold grapes to Trevor for about 10 years, and then he said, go and have a go yourselves. So Eastern Peake was born. I spent most of my childhood in Cogles Creek, where we are now at the winery. My first vintage was in 1999. I was 15 years old because Dad fell over during the middle of vintage, got concussion, and had to have 3 months off because he was quite ill. So he just said, have a go yourself, son. We've got to get through this because there's no one else around here that can really step up to my role, and you've kind of seen what we do. So, yeah, and he said, you should also, we'll do the Eastern Peake, but there's a little bit left over of this, so you should try and make a wine for yourself just to have a bit of fun with. And, I was just thinking, well, why not? Let's do this. I moved home about a decade ago, so I'd been off to uni and studied, worked in a few wineries around, and I really decided I wanted to come home and take the place to another step and see what we can do here with our viticulture and trying to show ourselves as one of the best Pinot producers in Australia. The thing about making Pinot that excites me the most is it's so reliant on where it is. It's not a variety that can be grown everywhere, and a vineyard really reflects what is in the wine. The climate that we're on with Eastern Peake here is reflective of why the wines are like they are. On this soil type here, which is a grey loam with a basalt, and either side of us is the red loam. There are vineyards planted nearby, like my uncle's and another one around the corner, and they had a bit more fruit dominance, whereas ours has a bit more complexity because of the soil type that we're on here. And it's fascinating because it's only 300 metres difference to the vineyard that's on the red soil. Being back at Eastern Peake, I really wanted to start playing around with different varieties, and I didn't really know that I was going to take off and do another label, but I've been doing contract winemaking here for other people with some interesting sites. So the first vineyard that I picked up on my own to really push it forward with was this Sangiovese vineyard. And Sangiovese is a bit of an uncommon variety in the area, and should be more of it grown because it's so well suited to the Pyrenees and around the Grampians, just because of its natural low pHs and high acidities. So you can get lots of really good flavour ripeness, but it still holds itself really well together. So this vineyard was transitioning to biodynamics, and that kind of interested me at the time. And I just started making this wine, and there was a couple of vintages there, and Dad sort of mentioned to me, you need to do something with this because it keeps building up. I thought, all right, well, maybe we'll start this label. And I thought, well, we'll launch it as Latta. The thing that really sort of kicked it off is I made a Nebbiolo from the Malakoff vineyard, which is up in the Lancer Valley, and I didn't really know what I was doing with that. I sort of made it in the same line as the Sangiovese with a bit of whole bunch, but I was reading lots of old texts about how long to leave it on skins, so we left it on for quite some time. After 12 months, I bottled 2 barrels of it off and released it with no sulphur in it, and there wasn't much around at that time with zero sulphur Nebbiolo in Australia. There's some around the world, but none really here. And for it to be a kind of finished, interesting wine that's got a fine element to it. It went nuts in Sydney, and I also had this skin contact white as well that I'd done, like minimal skin contact, called Reflections. And putting those two wines out in the market just made the label pop and be interesting, but there wasn't very much. So it kind of went quite quickly, and I think that's where it really kicked off.